So you shared this build plan and you said, how do I get more ward? How do I have more survivability? You're playing in empowered monoliths. You feel like you're dying, and like, let's see what we can do better. You're level 89, you have 800 life, and you said that your ward generation was coming from like a couple places in your gear. So let's see, we have 7 ward per second on the helmet. We have ward per second coming from the relic as well. We have +1 flame ward, sure. We have ward per second on the chest piece, but we don't have +1 to what's it called? Like, you can have 1 additional flame ward, whatever that line of text is. I feel like every mage, if you're realistically concerned about your defenses on a mage, you need to have a prefix on your chest piece that is, you can have an additional ward. That's kind of like the issue with mages, right? Mages are not particularly tanky. They don't have many options. That said, flame ward is insane. Like, when flame ward's up, you can tank anything. So that's like step 1, right? I would like to see more life, or I would like to see like higher ward value somewhere. So we have a little bit of int here. Let's keep poking through the build. Let's keep poking around the build so that we can see what's going on. We have 1 intelligence here, no intelligence here. Let's poke through the masteries real quick as well. What do we have here? Crit chance, crit multi, ward retention, sure. Bunch of intelligence, bunch of ward retention. You skipped the life nodes. All right. Whenever you take a hit that leaves you below half health, you freeze nearby enemies. I'm surprised you don't have any points in this. I feel like I've really appreciated this on the 1 or 2 Sorc builds that I played. Just like, if you get chunked, it just like freezes a couple nearby enemies. Even having like 1, 2, maybe 3 points in here, I find that being useful. What about your skills? I want to see your flame ward. Your flame ward is fully spec'd into damage. All right, I have an alternative option for you. What if instead of speccing into retaliation damage, you spec'd into you take less damage? This node's busted. What's down here? You have haste while flame ward is active. Deal fire aura. Are you stacking fire aura? Are you fire aura build? Did I totally miss something? Is this like a fire aura the build.net? Get out of here. Fire aura does more. Get out of here. Stop that. Okay, so you need to convert your stuff to cold because you're playing a cold build and you want to be taking infusion. I get it. And it's not that flat damage is bad. Flat damage is quite good. But this node over here is insane. This is what I would do. I would grab some nodes into this. This is another source of ward generation. Remember, flame ward, when you pop it, it gives you 400 ward plus whatever else you've taken over here. You could instead spec these points into like ward generation over time, additional ward retention while it's active, just for 1 point. And then I really have a high opinion of barrier. I think this thing's insane. I think just like specking 5 points into this, maybe even a point into like prismatic buffer, I think this is like fantastic. So here's the other thing, right? I said that having +1 charge for flame ward is like the thing that gives you the most survivability. So like, you have 1 charge by default. If you have the chest piece, you have 2 charges. If you wanted to, you could take all these flame ward stuff and instead of worrying about these, or maybe even instead of worrying about damage, because maybe your damage is good enough, what you could do is, let's remove a couple of these points and let's look at this node over here, right? Flame ward can store an additional charge, allowing you to use it twice before it goes on cooldown. And that would give you 1 and then 2 from this node and then 3 from your chest piece. And that like, it kind of helps to patch up the problems that a mage has, which is when your flame ward's up, you feel really good. And when it's down, you're dead. So it's kind of point intensive, but you could come all the way over here. And at that point, maybe you put a point in barrier, maybe you have a point here, maybe a point there. And then all of a sudden you see that like, well, we're already at like 19 points spent because we have 2 up here and 21. So we have 19 points spent if you wanted to go this route. Maybe this is 20 points spent where it auto triggers if you get stunned by something by accident. And then you have like a little bit of defense down here and then a little bit of ward generation over time and ward retention down here. So this is like the kind of thing you could think about. Flame ward's good enough that I don't want you spending a whole bunch of points getting 10 flat cold damage. I think the defensive benefits of flame ward far outweigh retaliation damage and the haste node and this nonsense down here. I think this kind of stuff down here with ward, defenses, and like maybe this up here. So one of those things. I think before you get the chest piece modifier, I would recommend just settling on probably this, honestly, right? So like here's all your 21 points, spec'd into everything you need. What else we have? We have focus, burst of ward after channeling. Sure, I like that. Ward retention while channeling. We don't really care about that. You gain a person of ward equal to percent of the mana gain once you finish channeling. You gain haste over here, stuff over here. What is Arcane Ascendance doing for us? Is this any defensive stuff? It's a shorter duration. You gain ward while it's active. Or sorry, when you activate it. Sure. I wonder how you would feel about taking this off. Here's what I would be tempted to do. Teleport. Teleport has ward, 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 ward. I experimented with these two nodes up here, with the mirror image here and the mirror image there. I used to every time that I was speccing teleport, I would come down here for the global cooldown recovery speed, this 5%, and it's fine. I guess it's fine. But defensively, I really found myself enjoying these two nodes. Yeah, something like this. Maybe speccing into these nodes down here. Maybe more ward retention if you teleported recently. Something like this. I found these mirror images to be pretty sick. They taunt nearby enemies. They kind of distract things away from attacking you. And then you also have all this huge ward generation down here, which is pretty nice. And again, like we kind of talked about your build. Like you said, you have ward retention. You don't have very many sources of ward generation. And then you said your damage was feeling good. So I'm kind of ignoring your damage. I'm just assuming that you're right. This mana is not so good. The ward retention, or sorry, the ward per second's fine. So the issue with the ward per second here is like, first of all, it's low. And second of all, it's a helmet prefix. And like helmet prefixes are so big. I feel like anything else that you can get as a helmet prefix would be like more impactful, right? Maybe like mana spent gained as ward. Maybe honestly int or like exalted intelligence. Maybe cooldown recovery speed, because cooldown recovery speed helps you have flame ward more often, right? I would look for plus to all res here. I would look for adding this to my loot filter and making sure that I can upgrade my chest piece to get plus one charge for flame ward on the chest piece. If you are only 70% res instead of 75% res, but in making that sacrifice, you can get like exalted intelligence on your helmet or something, do it. I've got another YouTube video, if you want to check it out, talking about the differences in resistances in Last Epoch as opposed to another game like Path of Exile, for example. Path of Exile is really punishing if you have less than 75 res, and then it's extremely rewarding if you have more than 75 res, just because of how Path of Exile works. Last Epoch has like a totally different system with it, and it's based around the fact that monsters by default have 75% penetration, which is really cool when you think about it. If you can get a really good piece of gear, but it means that your res drops to like 70 or 71 instead of 75, it's really no big deal. Hopefully that is not too long, because I said this was going to be short, but hopefully that's helpful to you too.